Now, people across Europe are heading to the polls to vote for members of the European Parliament, with nearly 2 million additional teenagers eligible to cast their ballot for the first time. Changes to the law in some EU countries mean 16 and 17-year-olds are able to take part. Opinion polls suggest that the far right will make significant gains, helped by unprecedented support from younger voters. Sofia Butitsa sent this report from Brussels.
Over the next 3 days, people across Europe will vote to elect members of this place, the European Parliament, and millions of young people are going to be voting for the first time.
Oh, you're gonna buy those. Okay.
In some countries, like Belgium, the voting age has been lowered to 16.
Do you think that the European elections matter?
Yes.
It's a very big opportunity for us, and I really like it because it gives us a voice that we never had before.
Europe needs to be stronger because we can't always trust NATO.
The tension is really getting real, and my history teachers now are really saying that it wouldn't surprise me if something would happen in the future, so that really scares me and my future, and thinking about my children and my future children. I don't have children now.
Vive la République et vive la France!
But more young people going to the polls won't necessarily translate into support for the EU. In fact, an unprecedented number of young voters are siding with far-right populist parties.
The success of the far right among young people in part has to do with their positions on immigration or on anti-woke, but also with their very successful social media strategy, especially on platforms such as TikTok. They also have this very clear anti-establishment discourse and even rebellious vibe that can appeal to young voters.
That rebellion blaring out in the capital of Europe.
Hundreds of farmers have come to protest here in Brussels with their tractors. They've come from lots of different countries, and many of them are really young. As voting gets underway across Europe, they want to send a strong message that the EU just isn't listening to them.
The reason why we vote for the right is that we had a status quo that we want to do away with. We have global issues that we don't know how we can take control of. We can actually solve the issues that the left tried to solve but failed to do so.
Another issue that is driving them to the right is migration.
There is a big issue when it comes to security and when it comes to keeping in track of all the people that come in. So I think that Europe doesn't have the capacity to receive that many people.
And that's why you're voting to the right?
That's why I'm voting common sense.
Common sense or not, many young people feel that the more traditional parties are not listening to their concerns. And that disconnect is what could deliver the most significant victory to the far right since the EU was founded more than half a century ago. Sofia Butitsa, BBC News, Brussels.
And Sofia joins me in the studio now. Just talk us through why these elections are important. I mean, it's effectively sort of shaping what the EU decides for the next few years, isn't it?
Exactly. So the European elections take place every 5 years, and more than 400 million people are eligible to vote in 27 countries in Europe. Now, voting already started yesterday in the Netherlands and will continue at the weekend. Now, the reason why, the way that it works is that people elect MEPs from their countries who then go and sit in the European Parliament in Brussels. And the reason why it really matters is that the European Parliament and other EU institutions, they shape and pass laws that affect so many people's lives on all sorts of issues, like food quality, travelling freely within the EU, how much you pay for your phone when you go on holiday in the EU. So as you said, this election this weekend will sort of set the agenda for the EU for the next 5 years.
And you mentioned in your piece that the right is expected to make gains. Talk us through what people are expecting in terms of the big picture.
Well, if you look at the Netherlands, for example, which voted yesterday, it appears that the far-right leader Geert Wilders did really well there, and that is the expectation across a lot of countries in Europe. Now, why are we seeing this shift? Well, a lot of Europeans that I spoke to are really angry at the way that politicians have been dealing with the cost of living crisis. And just to give you a bit of context here, nearly 1/3 of Europeans now say that they are in a financially precarious situation. And that's where the far right comes in. They say they want to change the status quo, they've got the answers, and they're really good at reaching people on social media. Also, if you look at previous European elections, people often use their vote as a protest vote. But in reality, this really matters because if the opinion polls are true and if the right and the far right performs better than ever, that means that will fundamentally reshape the priorities of the European Union on migration, on support for Ukraine, on climate change. And so it will have a big effect on millions of people.
Okay, thank you very much, Sofia Butitsa, here in the studio with me. Thank you.